I'm listening to people's language and the words that they're using and the dialogue that they're having around their life experiences and their emotions and the way that they're, carrying things with them. And I was thinking about this all week, and I'm like, it's something that I think we just don't talk about enough. So Kate and I were going through some of our training materials that we put over the past 3 years, and I pulled out this piece, and I was like, oh my gosh, like we haven't talked about this in like 3 years. And so I literally spent 4 hours yesterday like going through and really just wanting to get some more material in it. So it's a short little presentation. But I wanted to bring it to you in a different way because I don't think it's anything that you haven't heard before, but hopefully today it'll be brought to you in a way that it'll give you some tools to kind of reflect back on to do. Now, unfortunately, I meant to print this out so I could read because there's going to be some reading to be done. Just experience this with me and we'll see how it goes. So the idea is of course, is managing our thoughts and managing our life, right? And what we're putting out there in our intentionality, right, is leading to the results that we're getting. And the way that this shows up in life is simply our thoughts, right? The way that we're thinking about the situation is what's generating our emotions around, our feelings about it, right? And so you think about the word emotion, right? Motion is a subword inside emotion. So without emotion, there's no motion, there's no movement. Think about this with your clients. Like, why is your person selling? Why are they buying? What's their urgency? It all comes back to their emotion around how they feel about the situation, right? I have to move. I've got to be there quickly. My emotion is driving my motion, my motivation, right? So our feelings, the way we feel about something is going to lead to their actions that we're doing. And then the actions that we're doing is actually what's generating the results that we're getting. So a lot of conversations we've been having lately, especially like with the listing generators and those kind of things, people are getting stuck in paralyzation, right? And so if actions are zero actions, then their feelings are probably fear, right? And those fears are coming from the way that they're thinking about the situation, right? And so we want to begin to unwind some of this and give you some tools to kind of work through some of this in a more logical and intentional way. So what I did is I came up with some stories. This is what took 4 hours, is to find these great stories. So this one's called Mohi the Tiger. So Mohini was a regal white tiger who lived for many years in Washington, D.C. National Zoo. For most of her years, her home was an old lion house, a typical 12 by 12 foot cage with iron bars and a cement floor. Mohini spent her days pacing restlessly back and forth in her cramped quarters. Eventually, biologist staff worked together to create a natural habitat for her, covering several acres, trees, hills, and a pond, and a variety of vegetation. With excitement and anticipation, they released Mohini into her new and expansive environment, but it was too late. The tiger immediately sought refuge in the corner of the compound, where she lived for her remainder of her life. Mohini paced and paced in that corner until an area 12 by 12 feet was bare in the grass. So the author goes on and says, perhaps the biggest tragedy in our lives is that freedom is possible, yet we can pass our years trapped in the same old patterns, entangled in a trance of unworthiness. We grow accustomed to caging ourselves in with self-judgment, anxiety, restlessness, dissatisfaction. Like Mohini, we grow incapable of accessing the freedom and the peace that is our birthright. So, taking Mohini's situation, right? What emotion is Mohini having? Moving into this new, beautiful environment, right? It's moving into this environment with all this opportunity and abundance to run and to play. What's going on inside Mohini? Right? It's fear, right? The Mohini's stuck in fear. And so maybe feeling a little victimized, right? Apathy, right? And so its actions are lethargic. It doesn't move, doesn't want to get outside of the cage, right? stuck in this place where it doesn't want to move on. We do this to ourselves, right? Every day we have this potential that comes at us, these opportunities that come at us, presented in front of us, and then we judge them and we say, I don't know if that's safe. I don't know if that's real. I don't know if I can go there. I don't know what would happen, right? The fear of the unknown, the fear of moving forward. As you can see from this chart, here we have our thoughts. In the middle, we have the feelings that align with those thoughts, and then the actions, right? And as we look at these, we have fear, we have victim, conflict, responsibility, concern, reconciliation, and not judgment. Now, the idea is these are low-level energies, these top two. These are our low-level energies. These are our mid-level energies, and this is our high-level energy, right? So our low-level energies will paralyze us and they'll hold us back, right? And they limit us. So we see this a lot of times in somebody who, in a work environment, right? And they're always picking out somebody to be their villain, right? We talk about, remember, the victim, villain, and the hero, right? And they're picking out the villain, and they have to have that villain to fight every day. This person's the villain. They're here, right? They're in conflict. They think about conflict. Their energy and emotion around it is anger and frustration, right? And then their actions turn into defiance. They push back. So instead of being a team player, they're pushing away from you. The energies that we want to always stay in is these energies here, our mid-level and our high-level energies. So responsibility is, none of us are like, yay, responsibility, right? I get the responsibility. Yet, responsibility is a powerful energy because it's saying, hey, I'm the one who's going to take this load, right? Give me this load, I'll take this load. And it gives us something to focus our time and energy and our attention on, right? It gives us an opportunity to move forward. So I'm going to do another exercise here. That chart will come back up, so don't worry. The lady in the Volvo. One day, a lady in a brand new Volvo had been driving around a crowded parking lot. She finally found a spot and was just about to back in when a young man in a, beat up Toyota whizzed into the spot before her. As the Toyota driver got out of his car and was walking away, the old lady, the lady in the Volvo called out, I found that spot first. What gives you the right to push in and take it? The young man laughed and said, because I'm young and quick, and he kept on walking. All of a sudden, he heard the hideous sound of a car being heartily smashed. He turned around to see the lady in the Volvo repeatedly ramming her car into his. She caught his eye and said, that's because I'm old and rich. So here's a great example, right? What's your thoughts? The guy cuts her off, pulls in the parking lot. Victim or conflict, right? One of the two. I'm gonna fight you, right? Anger, defiance. I'm gonna smash my car into yours. I'm gonna break the law, right? I'm gonna do what I have to do to get my revenge. An interesting thing about this is I have a friend who, when he was in his 20s, he was about 26 years old, he made $1.2 million and did 475 units selling real estate. And if you ask him why he was doing it, is he was in his mind, he was taking advantage of somebody by somebody in the real estate industry, and his goal was to kick their butt, right? He's like, I'm going to show them, I'm going to kick their butt. So he goes out and he does, right? He generates the business, and he does all this stuff, and he builds this great business, very successful business, really quick, like in 2.5 years. This guy's building an amazing business. Yet time moves on, and he achieves the goal. The other guy's like, wow, man, you're amazing, and you kicked my butt, right? So 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years goes by, and his business starts to wane. His passion falls away. He's disconnected from what he's trying to do. He's not really managing his business very well. So he calls me up one day and he goes, I'm motivated right now. So-and-so pissed me off, and I'm going to show them that I can kick their ass, and this is the motivation that I needed. He's living here in this low level. So you got to think of this low level as like anger. Anger is a powerful emotion. It's a powerful fuel, but it's like jet fuel. It burns very hot and very fast. and it doesn't last long. And as soon as it burns out, there's nothing else to fuel. And so he used that jet fuel to fuel him that short distance, those 3 years. But as soon as the anger went away and he beat the other person, he was like, ha, I beat you. He didn't have anything else to move for. He didn't move up to the next levels of responsibility of his family or his finances. I mean, this is a guy who was generating a lot of income, but not saving it, right? So he was spending it to generate more because he was measuring himself on the number of units he sold and the gross commission he was earning, not on the profitability of his business. So he didn't shift into responsibility. He didn't have concern or compassion for others. He wasn't doing it for others or to serve others or provide others. He definitely wasn't seeking peace, right? And he wasn't moving into passion or non-judgment. He was staying in this anger, right? And so over time, I mean, this guy is still successful, but his real estate business is pretty much on life support. He does investing kind of one-on-one by himself. And he could have moved out of anger, moved towards passion, right? So let's talk about the next one. Baby Dashiell. I'll get it, I shouted loudly and skipped down the hall to the front door. When I opened it, I looked around, but nobody else was there. A loud cry sliced through the silence on my porch, and I looked down to see a baby in an old beat-up laundry basket. Surprised and somewhat panicked, I looked around to see if it was some kind of joke, or maybe if someone forgot something in their car and went to get it. But my street was empty of any signs of life, and the winter air was chilly. The tiny baby was wrapped in a thin blue blanket with nothing but a little tag that read, Dashiell, born 7/9/12, in sloppy writing. So in life, right, there's things that happen in life where we have to take responsibility. Somebody drops a baby on your doorstep. I don't believe anybody with a good conscience would shut the door and just walk back into the house, right? It forces you out of apathy. It forces you out of anger and defiance, because you could just shut the door and go, somebody inconvenienced me with this baby on my porch, right? But most likely, it's going to trigger responsibility. Now think about things that occur in your life that happen that we didn't cause, right? We didn't cause somebody to put a baby on our front porch, but it still happened to us. We just happened to be the door they dropped that baby off on. And that responsibility immediately shifts to us. So one of the things that's important in life, I believe, is to always take responsibility for everything that happens, good or bad, right or wrong. Somehow, some way, this is still my responsibility. And there's a difference between responsibility and guilty, okay? You can be responsible, but not be guilty, right? You get in a car accident, somebody hit you, you're still responsible for repairing your car, even though you're not guilty of the accident. And I think we have trouble in our heads saying, I take responsibility for this, even when it wasn't something that we caused, okay? So one of the things that with leadership is to say, how did I cause this, or how did I create this, right? So we caused this by either allowing it to happen, okay? So we saw the signs and we ignored them. Oh, never did that, right? Or we repeat the mistakes we made in the past. We didn't learn from the mistakes. We didn't acknowledge the mistakes. So, one of the things we talk about in here all the time is, tell me about how you failed, right? Well, this is so we can learn from each other's mistakes. That's why we talk about that, okay? So let's talk about our mistakes so we can learn and move forward. And this shifts to responsibility, right? And this allows our energy not to move to the low-level energies, right? So you come into the work environment and somebody's driving you crazy, right? And they're like, chomping down their gum. And you're like, oh, I'm going to freaking kill them, right? We're shifting into conflict and anger instead of responsibility. I can control my environment. I can grab my stuff and I can go somewhere else. I can ask them politely not to chomp their gum. Now, if they choose not to chomp their gum, I'll relocate, right? But it does not prevent me from achieving the things that I want to achieve. So I love the baby analogy, right? I love the understanding of this. Things happen and we still take responsibility. Because that's hard for many, many people. Some people can't do it. Some people can't. They're just not in the place. They live in victim. They say, I'm the victim. No, this happened to me. I'm the victim. Well, guess what happens? If you're these levels, what do you do around these people? You run from them. These people don't want to be around these people. It's true. They go, I'm going this way because this low-level energy will suck you in. Think about this. You have this little antenna on your head, okay? And this little antenna is radiating out frequencies. This low-level frequency, like an FM transmitter, if 1035 is playing right now, can anybody right now hear 1035, the radio station? Because we're not tuned in to 1035. If we had a radio right here that was tuned into 98.5 and 1035 is playing, we don't hear 1035. It's only tuned into 98.5. If you're transmitting at 1035, who do you attract? Other 1035s. These guys are tuned into something else. They're going, I don't like that music. I'm getting out of here. So you attract that which you are, right? All right. Next one. Now we're getting deeper. This one's big. This one took a little time. The end of an era. Why do you want to be president? Ronald Reagan's advisor asked while the two were flying to the Republican National Convention in Detroit, where Reagan would accept his party's presidential nomination. To end the Cold War, Reagan answered. Reagan had grand ambitions, but no grand strategy for winning the war. The president wanted to eradicate communism, which he considered a disease. He also hoped to rid the war of the dangers of nuclear weapons. These two long-term objectives were at odds. Real arms reduction was possible only if the Soviet leaders trusted Reagan, and they could not trust him if he appeared that he was out to destroy them. In 1984, the president gave a televised address that concluded with an imagined meeting between Jim and Sally, an American couple, and Ivan and Anya, their Soviet counterparts. Would they debate the differences between their respective governments, Reagan asked, or would they themselves comparing notes about their children and what the others did for a living? People's common interest crossed all borders, he insisted, and he pledged to work with the Soviet leaders to fulfill the hopes and dreams of those that we represent and indeed of people everywhere. Reagan and Gorbachev's willingness to think the unthinkable about arms control, the two leaders came astonished and close to an agreement to eliminate the entire nuclear arsenal during the upcoming decade. The deal floundered on Reagan's unwillingness to confine the research on the Strategic Defense Initiative. Both sides understood that they were aiming at arms reductions, not at securing advantage in the arms race. The negotiations encouraged Gorbachev to make even more bolder proposals, which led to the signing of the Intermediate Range Nuclear Forces Treaty a year later and the first Strategic Arms Reduction Treaty in 1991. The part of the story I was looking for is there's a rumor out there that Reagan had a dream. And in the dream, the world was destroyed by nuclear weapons. And this changed his perspective. And he said, I'm not going to be the president that's going to ruin the world, right? Kill all the life on the world. I was looking for the story, couldn't find it anywhere. But I found this story, edited it down a little bit. What energy are these two in? Where have they shifted? Are they, why do you keep doing
Concern. I think it's
concern, compassion, right? I'm afraid that we're going to destroy the world. We're going to kill everybody. There is a story of a nuclear sub captain who got disconnected. He broke radio. He was out at disconnection from the radio. And the last thing he heard was that a nuclear warhead was launched from the United States to Russia. And this was a Russian sub-captain. And he was conflicted. He was like, I don't know what to do. If we're at war, I need to launch. But he wasn't positive. And something in him told him to hold off. And it turned out there was no nuclear war going on. But had he just made that one wrong decision and hit that button, the war would start. Gorbachev knew that. Reagan had his dream. Reconciliation. They moved to reconciliation because of compassion, right? And through reconciliation, they find peace. They find the similarities. Not all these things that were dislike each other, but look at these things that we have in common, right? Think about your transactions that you're doing out there, and you're fighting with these other agents, and you're arguing, and this agent's this, and this agent's that. This agent doesn't know what he's doing, right? They're idiots. I hear that all the time. You don't know that, right? They might be in a bad place right now. They might be going through some tough stuff, right? We don't know what's going on in their world, yet you have a responsibility to your client to get that closed, right? So stay out of this. So you won't believe what that agent did to me, right? Or, the agent moves the closing or needs to move the closing because of loan conditions or something. You go to your client, you're like, oh yeah, you're totally going to take advantage of here. No, you're not. Your goal hasn't changed. Your goal is still to get the home closed, right? That's what's going on with them. Let's look into what's going on in their world. Let's find reconciliation and peace, right? And move towards acceptance is our actions, right? Acceptance is our action. One more. On the afternoon of May 13th, 1919, a crowd of 10,000 men, women, and children gathered in an open space in India known as the Jallianwala Bagh, which was nearly completely enclosed by walls that only had one exit. Some people there were protesters who were defying the ban on public meetings, and some had come to the city from surrounding region to celebrate the Bashika, which is a spring festival. British soldiers arrived and sealed off the exit. Without warning, the troops opened fire on the crowd, reportedly shooting hundreds of rounds until they ran out of ammunition. According to one official report, an estimated 379 Indian people were killed, and about 1,200 more men, women, and children were wounded. Mahatma Gandhi, later interviewed by the press, was asked, "Do you hate the British soldiers for what they did?" Gandhi replied, "I do not hate them, for they do not know what they have done is wrong." Think of that. How fast we shift to anger. They killed his people. Those are his people they killed. Yet he understood that where those men were, who those men were in their hearts, they didn't understand that what they were doing was wrong. And he knew that over time, they would reflect back over time on the situation. And as a humanity comes together, they would look at it as being wrong. But in the moment, he actually said, I don't hate them, I love them. I took that out because I didn't think you would believe it. Because people would say, what? Non-judgment. Passion. He was trying to reunite the British and Indian culture. He wasn't trying to segregate them and tear them apart. He was trying to bring them together because he understood that the British people weren't bad people and that the Indian people weren't victims, right? But he wanted to bring them together, right? Through nonviolence, passion. And what did he do? He created, right? He became the person to create something that wasn't there. This is the highest level of energies, right? When we look at this is the energy chart, right? And so you have the low, the mid, the high level energy. And not that we're ever always here, right? nobody just resonates at this high peaceful energy. We fluctuate in and out of this energy. We go to low energies at times. I tell the story of when I got diagnosed with my diabetes, right? And I was like, what the heck is going on? And I shifted into low level victim. I can't believe this happened to me. What did I do wrong? If my life was different, if my parents taught me differently, if I ate differently, if society, if this, if that, if McDonald's wasn't so damn good, right? I was victim. And I remember at the time, I called my employer and I said, look, he goes, are you okay? And I was like, yeah. He goes, if you need to take time off, go ahead and, it's got to be tough. And I said, I'm going to take a week off. I'm going to have the biggest pity party for myself. I'm going to cry. I'm going to lay in bed. I'm not going to do anything. I'll be back to work the following Monday. And I'm letting it go. Because I can't change it, right? It's not something that I can just go, okay, I'm going to just change it. Trust me, I tried. I did many different things to change it. Now it's something I can manage. I can be responsible for it. But I can't change it. I can't go back in time. I can't make my pancreas work again. So I shifted from victim, right? I went through anger. I was mad. I was mad at a lot of different situations. I was mad at my doctor. I got fired from a doctor for arguing with him. I shifted to responsibility, right? And now I think I'm kind of up here. Like I'm kind of reconciled. I'm at peace with it. Like I'm okay with it. I'm definitely not here. I'm not passionate about it by any means. Like I'm not like, yeah, this is great. Everybody should have this. Yeah, I know. Okay. So think about this chart, and I'll be happy. I'll send this slide deck out so you guys can have it. You can print this little piece out. This is actually a full circle. It comes all the way down. There's a whole bunch more on here, but it's too much. This is the good part.